Yeah. But we're live.
Oh, hey, welcome everybody. I am Marcus DeAngelo. I'm joined by my slapdick brother, Dominic DeAngelo of WrestleZone.com, and we are two Dynamite Dudes with Attitude.
Hey,
And
how
we
many?
are,
Say a little bit more.
shut
More?
the fuck up. When we're coming to you live again. How many weeks in a row is this? So we're
This
live
is 3
now?
weeks in a row for the live thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I've been digging going live. It's fun doing the interaction, and I'm especially liking it because this week it was a damn good episode of Dynamite. What did you think,
Marcus? I called it. This was the Raw after Mania, not the Raw after Mania. This felt like the Raw after Mania.
Right? It was a big show,
and we didn't. And the thing was, this show did much more than what the Raw after Mania was supposed to do. Because typically, Raw after Mania, you see it, and you get new debuts, you get new people coming in, and a fresh start. When you didn't watch Raw, I watched Raw, and it just felt like the same old shit, and then same old frustration, like people getting jobbed out. Stars you want to look to build, you get jobbed out, like Damian Priest, all that stuff. Won't go into those too much, but you look at what the Dynamite did, and there was a lot of stars that got elevated. Like you look at, we'll go into it, but like Anthony Ogogo and
Will Hobbs,
and you could just go on. Like even in the main event, Darby Allin elevating to another level with these main events that he's having. So it was a really good show. I really liked it, and honestly, you might have some criticisms. I'm trying to think of some on my own, but I'm not really coming to any of them at this moment.
Well, yeah, let's dive right in and see what exactly I liked, what pissed me off, et cetera, et cetera. Dom, I think the reasonable place to start here is in talking about the Young Bucks. They open it up with a nice heel promo, right?
And a nice heel look.
A nice heel look. Yeah, they said that they're shaking off the old facade, which is what I'm looking for. Dominic, I think they were listening to the podcast last week. What do you think?
I always like to think that,
I mean, it's really the only answer, is it not? You and I called for them to be a little bit more intense, and they brought it. This was one of the better promos I've seen from the Young Bucks. And Dom, I'm going to touch on that whole subject of them listening to our podcast here because there were some moments later on with like the group interview with Don Callis and the Elite where it was like, kind of sounds like they're talking about us.
I'm very interested in hearing, because we will talk about that. You have that on your list, right? Because
it's on my list, so we'll get there.
Okay,
but so let's jump right into the opener. The Young Bucks taking on who was it? I don't even know.
Jeez, it's the Death Triangle.
Oh, that's right. Jeez, how could I forget, dude? Let me tell you, Death Triangle, and most notably, Pac. Man, what a tag team. Great workers. I mean, you know how I feel about Rey Fenix. I think he's a future star, future AEW champion. But like every time Pac is on the TV, I'm just like, good Lord, that man, he is one hell of a worker. I loved hearing JR compare him to the Dynamite Kid. Really made me happy.
That was awesome, wasn't it? I thought the same thing too. I even made note of that in my recap, like while we're covering it.
And one of there were a lot of high spots in that match, but the one that really stuck out to me was he did this like shove off into the it was like an Irish whip return, but like the guy the Buck's back came to him and he just snapped it into like this German suplex.
Oh yeah, that's such a good
Lord. It was hellacious. So just really incredible.
Would you call this the best Young Bucks match in AEW yet, you think?
I was gonna say that I would say that it was the best, aside from some of the like the coordinated bullshit that they do.
You're always gonna get that though. Like I think that's just kind of part of it,
I understand that that's part of it, and it's part of what wrestling is today, but I hate that stuff. Like, they did like these coordinated like drop kicks, and then and most notably, the thing that was like, okay, was they were on the outside of the ring, and it was like one person behind a member of the other team, and they were just like looking at each other, and it was like the two enemies timed it and did like a reverse Hurricane Rana. And I was just like, come on, like I know, we all know it's a work, but can you let us suspend our disbelief a little?
Yeah. I get that. I do get that. Overall though, I really, really did like it. It was an awesome opener. Like, it's neat. Like, I say this week in and week out, Dynamite really mixes it up with how they open the shows. And even this time around they did too, because they did more so of like, Tyson's backstage and different things like that. And then you get introduced into the match. And like, it was, like, we haven't had this type of match, like fast paced craziness, like as the opener for a little bit. Like, it's been a couple of weeks since we've had something like that. Cause like the week before we just had like Hangman and Caster. And then there was like, I think Jericho was involved. No, maybe not Jericho. Somebody was involved in the match where it was like, oh, Christian and Frankie Kazarian. So like, we've had some variety before that. And it's cool to see. It was a great opener, man.
Absolutely. And by the way, I wanted to mention that we are being joined by some great folks here. We're joined by Steve Chambers. What's up, Steve? He's saying that he likes the Young Bucks Death Triangle match. It was a hell of a match, and I will go out on a limb and say that it's my favorite performance by the Young Bucks so far in AEW. They came out looking like complete heels. They're wearing Dior, which is like, it kind of makes you like, ooh, those bastards. They got all the money.
Listen, did you see the reaction people were giving on Twitter about that shit?
Yeah, they're like, that's fake Dior.
Is it
like,
fake?
Dude, chill out.
Yeah, and it's just like, who cares if they're fake or not? That's what makes it great.
Is that part of like being a heel too? Is like pawning it off? Is like saying like, yeah, check it out, designer, and then people are like, those are not designer.
Not only that, but we're wrestling in them too.
Right. James, what's up, buddy? James Espanto Fernando Tagoy.
Wow, you do a better job at it than I do.
Thanks for joining us. And I'm sorry if I butcher your name, dude. Darvinder Singh. Yeah, hey, thanks for joining us, guys. We really appreciate all the support. Appreciate you guys being here on a night when SmackDown, it's like the SmackDown after WrestleMania. So yeah, we appreciate you guys joining us. I know that there's a lot of wrestling content, but hopefully we can keep your attention here. Yeah. But yeah, so Dom, I wanted to ask you, does Pac remind you of anybody else?
That's tough because like I think Dynamite's is such a really good comparison, but I mean, boy, I'd imagine you have somebody in mind, huh?
He reminds me of like if Dynamite Kid and Chris Benoit had a baby.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I think Pac has really, really got something. And seriously, future AEW star, future big name. Yeah. He's got everything you want in a talent. But we can move on. Dominic, somebody else who I think has got absolutely everything that you want in a talent. Holy smokes, Jade Cargill.
Yes.
Talk about leveling up week after week. She is awesome.
It was not a long match, but it was such a good match. Like,
it didn't have to be long.
Yeah, and Red Velvet did an amazing job at like working for her and everything like that. It was hard hitting. Like, Jade's talented at this juncture already, and she's only had like 2 matches. So I mean, that says something. And like her presence coming out there, it's just like bam. It's like there's your women's division right there. Britt, Rosa, Serena Deeb, Ty Conte, Hikaru Shida. You position everybody around those.
Hey, Chris Statlander, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, their women's division, as you and I have said week after week, when AEW first started, it was not strong at all. They were struggling, and they did not look good. And now all of a sudden, it's like, holy shit, this is the best women's division I've ever seen in wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was such a good match, and like I felt like it really highlighted Jade in the proper way too. Like, and I thought it was really good too. Like, I was kind of surprised that they had Red Velvet take the pin. Like she lost like straight.
It was interesting. I saw somebody compare Jade to Hulk Hogan, saying like, look, she's got all the same stuff that Hulk Hogan has. She could be equally as big a star. I'm sticking with my comparison, Dom. She's like a better Lex Luger, right? If she polishes the mic skills a little bit, she's got it all. She's got all the potential Lex Luger had, all that like jump off the page, like airport passing the airport test.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, she's got everything that you want. Your new dog is giving you fits over there, huh?
Like, yeah, I got a new dog, and she's pestering the heck out of my cat right now. Dusty's really feeling it right now, Daddy.
Well, we'll try to remain focused, even though I know it's not easy. Oh, Dominic, here's something I wanted to bring up about that match. Though I'm sorry to circle back. I just was looking through my notes. The match with Death Triangle and the Young Bucks. How did you feel about the whole like Matt pretending, like mocking his former self in the match,
like mock crying?
He was like doing the mock, like fire on the outside, like trying to get the hot tag. Like I felt like the announcers had to explain it before it made any sense.
I don't know. I kind of got it. I got it. Like, because like they're showing themselves as heels, So I thought it was fine. Mm-hmm.
I guess so. I didn't like it, and I wanted to make a point of saying, like, I don't know, it feels like the Bucks they'll take like a step forward and 2 steps back sometimes. It's like, dude, stop overthinking it, stop overbooking it. Just like go out there and be a heel, just be unlikable. And like they wound up circling back to it and making it work. Is with that promo that you and I are going to be talking about soon, with Don Callis and the whole crew outside. But I see stuff like that. I'm just like, you need to be produced a little bit. Like they feel like they struggle. Like they have this cool idea and then it just doesn't play on TV.
It really didn't stand out to me as a big moment or something that was like super noteworthy. I was just like, oh, he's like patronizing the crowd. Like he knows people aren't getting fired up by that. Like they're assholes. Like that's what I kind of got. So no, I didn't make a big thing of that. And I didn't even really think it needed explaining actually.
I don't know. It was just like when I saw it, I was like, why is he's just like acting weird? I don't know what the hell is he doing? He's like trying to get a hot tag. He's on the wrong side of the ring. Like he's on the wrong apron. Like what the hell? And then the announcers like explained it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Thanks. I'm glad the announcers explained it. Like the idea with wrestling is you're supposed to do like big, grand, large gestures that are like very easy to pick up. You know what I mean? And it's like being on stage, right? On Broadway, you want to be like over the top, huge gestures, huge facial expressions, making it very, very clear how you are thinking and feeling and what you're trying to portray. And to me, it just didn't read, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, well, I thought it was okay. Like I really thought the Bucks did a good job at being heels this time around, and again, we go back to the criticism of like their Dior's. It's like that was what the heels are supposed to do. Like I thought all across the board they did a good job with being heels. So I kind of disagree with you on that.
Hey, fair enough.
This you probably didn't have this written down, but obviously WWE released, I think it was 8 wrestlers in total, maybe more. And one of those, well, not only did we have the Iconics and Billy Kay and Peyton Royce, those were very notable names. Tucker from Otis and Tucker of Heavy Machinery is gone. This is off the top of my head. Wesley Blake is gone. Callisto is gone. And Mickey James is gone.
Did you say Samoa Joseph?
No, I did not say Samoa Joseph. I was going to. And yes, he is gone. So Marcus, James asked the question of the 10 released. Okay, so there was 10 release stars. Who would you like to see in AEW? So Marcus, obviously, we both love to see Samoa Joe in AEW.
Yeah, I think that's like the right off the top of your head, easy layup of a pick, right? Because he's a legacy TNA talent. We know that he'd be able to come in and burn down the house with, some awesome opponents. How about him and Eddie Kingston just right out of the gate?
Wow. Yeah. Hard hitting. Yeah. Well told.
That would be something to see. The other one there's 2 more that really jump off the page to me. Let's continue to strengthen the women's division. Let's get Mickey James.
Yes.
And let's get Chelsea Green.
Yes. That's the one I didn't mention either. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And her old gimmick too. What did they call Hot Mess, the Hot Mess. She could play into that and it would be amazing because I cannot believe that WWE did not take advantage of that when they had her. There was so much. Mickey James was so underutilized. It was such a disappointment. Like I was so excited when she came back because I was like, oh man, they're gonna build her back up and certified star, they barely used her in the right manner.
Dude, I mean, how easy is this booking? Mickey James versus Thunder Rosa. How about Chelsea Green versus Britt Baker? I mean, like, dude, the potential is unbelievable there.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. James is saying Chelsea Green and Billie Kay as well. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited by this, but let me say, it was 4/15 last year when all those releases happened. 4/15 this year when all the releases happen. I think there's going to be a lot of very uncomfortable people on 4/14 next year in WWE, like starting to think like, am I on the chopping block?
Marcus, it's so weird because I did not even see it coming. Like, I was like, 4/15 came along, and I think I made a mental note that okay, that was the day the cuts happened, or I saw it on Twitter or something. But I would never, for the life of me, thought they would actually cut people on the same exact day a year from that day. It was just, it seems very tone deaf and dumb. Like, it's like
maybe it was just happenstance.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just happenstance that it happened to be the exact same day, but I don't know. There's got to be something going on in there. There has to be something going on in their accounting department. Where they see like, okay, well, this is the end of one of our quarters or something, right? That's got to be it. Like, oh, okay, this is the end of our first quarter of business, so this is kind of the time to strike. It's got to be something like that.
Well, John Laurinaitis was making the calls and just saying it was budget cuts when WWE like flourished in money over the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, what a stupid statement. I like John Laurinaitis. I think he's spent a lot of time in the business. He's obviously got a good mind, but he's also towing the company line.
Oh, for sure, 100%. Like, that's why Vince hired him back to talent relations.
Yeah, there's nothing as nice as having a yes man present anytime you have something to say.
And to have a fall guy too when you have to make cuts. I'm very curious if Vince texted or called or did anything on his own accord with any of these talents that got released, thanking them or anything. Because if not, I would think the talent would have to not only just be frustrated, understand that it's business, but also be frustrated and just like despondent at the fact that, hey, we don't even get a phone call, not like Vince just passes it on to somebody else and then we're out like yesterday's garbage.
Mm-hmm. Hey, so I saw a comment here I wanted to comment on.
Yeah.
Sean Akoff. I don't know. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, dude. He's saying the Young Bucks are trying to be the cool heels like the NWO used to be. Absolutely. And I think that they could pull it off.
Yeah.
For sure. Obviously, it's like a very, very different world. Their styles are very, very different. But, if they do it right and they keep cutting promos like they have been and they keep like coming out like just being douchebags about like wearing like designer clothes and stuff, then yeah, I think that there's real potential for them to.
I think there's definitely
threshold,
real potential to do that. Dusty's boxing away at the new
door. So Chris also just made an interesting point. Chris Braun, he's saying the cutting of Joe has to make me wonder about his health issues. I'd love to see him in AEW like everyone, but you have to question if his health is uncertain enough to make WWE not clear him moving forward. So I think that's an interesting point. They kind of gave him the Taz treatment, didn't they? Where it was like, okay, Taz came in, he was like a house of fire for WWE at first, then they just doused the fire for no good reason, and then all of a sudden he was an announcer. So I don't know if that means he's got health issues or if Vince doesn't. We all know that Vince McMahon is like a body guy, and Samoa Joe is not a body guy. So it kind of makes you wonder if Vince McMahon was like, I'm tired of seeing that guy shirtless on WWE TV.
Well, he wasn't. That's the thing. He wasn't shirtless. He was on commentary for how long?
Well, right. But was he on commentary because Vince did not like how he looked?
Yeah. I don't like. That's the thing. It's going to be very interesting to see what Joe's status is, because I know injuries were a problem for him, and him being, but he was great on commentary. He was really, really good on commentary. So, and like he was great on the mic too when he was just ass kicking Samoa Joe. And oh my god, chaos. Animal chaos. Hold on, I'm gonna restore order. Vamp, Marcus. Vamp.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually going to talk about something that I'm seeing here below from James. I wish I could highlight it on my screen, but that's only something Dominic can do from his. But James has just asked, what would you think of Bo Dallas as a member of the Dark Order? I think that's an awesome idea. I love the idea of bringing in Bo Dallas. You want to talk about underutilized in WWE, disrespected in WWE? Bo Dallas and Joe Hennig both fit that mold. I want to see Joe Hennig in AEW. I want to see Bo Dallas in there because I think that Bo Dallas has a lot of potential. God knows that he's got the legacy with his father being IRS, Mike Rotunda. And here's best of all is that his brother is one of the top people in the business right now. And why not coast off that a little bit? I don't think it would hurt anything. Bring him in and pair him with Abaddon. Make him a creep, just like his brother is. Like, yes, it's
him a better creep. Because
Sure.
I tell you what, I like honestly, and I've said this on the WrestleMania post show and any podcast that I do when I talk about WWE, the Fiend character itself, I think, is dead in the water. Like, I think they've destroyed him. They've brought him back to life too many times, and like figuratively and literally. And it's just like, okay, you've damaged him, and you've damaged Bray Wyatt in general too. Just even in his gimmick beforehand, because he talked around in circles and everything like that. So it's just, this would be the thing to do. Bring Bo Dallas in, make him your Fiend, but make him a better version, and don't make him the Fiend, obviously, or to that extent. But you make him your own version of something that he doesn't have to be supernatural, but he can just be a real dark creep. And like, sure, you can make that, you can kind of lean into that. Like, hey, this is his brother, and you know what? We're doing a better job at it than they are.
And like, so we've also got like a pipeline, so to speak, with Impact. I know that Rosemary's over there, and she's really creepy. Let's get Bo Dallas and surround him with Abaddon. Let's get Rosemary on his side too. Like, just picture that. I think it could be a lot of fun, and like you said, I think they could kind of do what WWE's doing with the Fiend, and probably do it better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's not hard now, because what they did was they just did not make the most of him. They did not fall through his storylines. The stories that they did put on television were confusing as all get out and did not make sense, and just dumbed down the aspect of it's just, they played to the lowest common denominator in a lot of ways when it came to Vince McMahon's creative viewpoint, like just talking in circles and all that stuff. It was bad. So bring Bo Dallas in. Marcus, I'm for Joe Hennig eventually making an appearance or a show up in it. I wouldn't put him together with Bo Dallas, though. I don't think.
No, absolutely not. You're not doing them any favors by doing that, especially with the whole B team label, which is just pure disrespect by WWE, especially for two guys who are like, I mean, Joe Hennig is a third generation wrestler. I don't know. I don't think that Bo Dallas is, but he's a second generation wrestler. It's, what I would like to see out of Joe Hennig is, how about you have him come in and say like, hey, Cody, you're saying that your wrestling's royal family, not Triple H. You're forgetting about me, man. How about Larry the Axe Hennig? How about Kurt Hennig? How about me? To me, that's a natural feud. Joe Hennig's a great worker.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see a lot of ways that they could go with a lot of talent that's just out there right now. Let's talk a little bit about some talent that they have in-house right now. Dominic, Anthony Ogogo made his in-ring debut, and holy cats, I was a big fan. What did you think?
Oh yeah, people shit on that too, because all he did was do the liver punch, and they're like, "That's it." Have you ever get punched in the liver? And by not only that, but like a Golden Gloves boxer that was also a bronze medal in the Olympics.
Yeah, famously, Dominic, there is the 3 bouts between 2 of my favorite boxers of all time, Mickey Ward and Arturo Thunder Gotti. They had 3 matches, and it was it was almost like a best of 3 thing, and it was really, really entertaining. At one point, Arturo takes a liver punch during his fight with Mickey Ward, and people went crazy because like he managed to stand back up afterwards. Like, liver punches, if you haven't been punched in the liver, a lot of us have had the wind knocked out of us. I've had the wind knocked out of me, and I've been punched in the liver.
Have you been punched in the liver?
Yes, I have.
Oh yeah, I've done that several times. I remember knocking you down.
Yeah, it wasn't you.
Humiliating you.
And being punched in the liver is like having the wind knocked out of you times 10. It is incredibly painful, and it's hard to like seeing Arturo Thunder Gotti stand up. I was like, that's one of the toughest humans I've ever seen in my life. It's unbelievable.
What would you compare the pain to?
It's hard to compare it to anything. Like it feels like your insides are torn up. Like it feels like you have internal damage. So for him to use that as a finisher, also like JR kind of hit the nail on the head a week or two ago when he said like, oh, he's doing the old Jack Dempsey solar plexus punch.
Yeah.
Where like, and that punch, by the way, was Dempsey. He would say that what he was trying to do was actually get his fist up inside of somebody's rib cage. So like if that's what they're going for too, that's a hideous thing to have happen to you. And either way, I thought it was great. Now here's the beef that I had with the match. I don't like that, like the ref checks on the guy after he got punched and he's just like, well, he's done. And he just like calls for the bell immediately. I think the guy should have tried to stand up and shown that he couldn't. And I think that the ref should have given a 10 count. Like, because that's still a thing in pro wrestling, right? If a guy's down and he can't stand up at a 10 count, the match is over.
The thing is, I think we kind of, if they did like a 10 count, I get it because it falls in the rules of wrestling and all that stuff. But I think the simple fact that Anthony Gogo is a boxer and
it resembled boxing too much. It
would have been like, okay, they're really leaning into the fact that he's a boxer. Like, I don't think that would have served him very well. I think it was cool that he just checked. I mean, I would be up for him trying to get up and then not being able to. But I also feel like you watch MMA, somebody gets knocked down real hard or somebody like, gets shot. The ref immediately checks and is able to tell, okay, he can't go on. So I was okay with it. I thought it was a great finish still.
So I think you make a good point about it being a little bit too close to boxing. But how about let's see the guy try to stand and prove that he can't, and actually see the guy tell the ref like, I can't do it. I quit. I submit, whatever. Like, I think if that's a better way to do it, let him sell it a little bit longer. It just felt like the ref ran over. He like looked at the guy. He's like, he's done. Ring the bell. It's like, this is still pro wrestling. Let's have a little bit of a show.
Steven says he needs a submission move. What would you give Anthony Gogo?
It's hard to say, man, because I love submission moves, and I think that it can really heighten the drama. But like, what's something that hasn't been done? I can't really think of much. No. I think that the liver punch or the solar plexus punch or whatever we're calling it, I think that is, I think it's original enough that it's going to help to get Anthony Gogo over if they use it properly.
Yeah, we haven't seen the Dragon Sleeper in a long time.
That's true, and you make a fair point, Dominic. The last person I saw use the Dragon Sleeper was Ultimo Dragon. So hey, why not? Let's give that a shot.
Although, go to sleep.
Hey, it's kind of like Pity City though too. Because you got the guy's face right in your damn armpit.
It did double whammy. I like Gogo's attire. I thought it was cool. His music sounded really awesome, and dude, I like the look of QT Marshall in the bowling shirt. I thought it was like fucking like kind of gave off this pretentious I don't give a shit vibe, and then being flanked by Nick Camarado, who looks like insane and like fucking like definitely somebody you would not want to mess with. I thought the Factory gave off a very good vibe this week.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. I think that QT Marshall's really leveling up. He went from just being like this dude who's like, he like brings an apple to the ring and he's like, I guess he's good at wrestling because everybody tells me he is, to now it's like, oh, okay, this dude's like manipulating the young guys that he's bringing in.
Yeah.
And that's a story that makes sense. And it's a story that I can get behind. Like this guy who's jaded, he couldn't do it himself. So now he's like bringing in these guys to kind of do it for him, like achieve things for him that he personally couldn't achieve as a pro wrestler. It's a cool storyline. I really like it. Dom, I wanted to mention this. Steve Chambers said, get Davey Boy Smith Jr. 100,000% agree with that.
It would be awesome.
I would love to see him in an AEW ring, and just like especially with that stuff he started doing in Japan, where he started putting in like a mouthpiece and he started like looking like this absolute savage in the ring. He got in unbelievable shape. It's like, oh, dude, that could be a lot of fun.
He did that in MLW, and like Marcus, I'm not kidding when I say the person that had the best string of matches in 2019 was Davey Boy Smith Jr. Like week in, week out, he would have fantastic technical and then unique matches that really stood out. I recommend you guys can go back, watch that 2019 year of MLW Fusion, and you'll see some amazing stuff from Davey Boy Smith Jr. Like just amazing. So I would love him to get positioned in the right manner, because you think about it, and MLW did an amazing job with him. Like they did. I would love it if AEW did something like that too, because him versus Cody would be a fantastic match. Him coming in almost like as Marcus, we're so big fans of Cesaro. and saying like how they should position him as like this defending like Lou Thez like champion. I think Davey Boy Smith could really exemplify that in the modern light of AEW and everything.
No question about it, Dom. I mean, Davey Boy Smith, he's got like that Hart family legacy, but he's also got that British thing going on too, where it's like kind of that William Regal catch style wrestling.
Yeah, yes.
Where it's like, man, he could be an absolute game changer for AEW if used properly.
Yeah.
Before I saw you just highlight James things. Before you get, actually, this is a perfect one. Never mind. James is saying, is anyone out there using the Taz submission finisher? Yeah, the Taz mission, that was always cool. It was almost like this choke out thing. Obviously, if somebody's going to use that, I think that they should be on Team Taz. And let me tell you, man, if Brian Cage is going to be transitioning out of Team Taz, which it kind of seems like he is, who better to bring in to replace him? Who better than Samoa Joe?
Yeah. As you look about it, like who aligned with one another in TNA was Taz and Samoa Joe. So there's a history there.
It just makes sense. I would say, and then bam, you've got an immediate feud for Samoa Joe coming in the door, a big guy that he can prove himself against in Brian Cage.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I think that there's a lot of potential there. Dom, what is next? Oh, you know what? We're talking about Anthony Ogogo, former boxer. Let's talk a little bit about Mike Tyson and his interaction with MJF near the top of the show. Like, dude, Mike Tyson has got it. You can tell that
he understands it. He gets it.
Yeah, he truly gets it. He's in unbelievable shape. He looks like I kind of want to see Mike Tyson in a wrestling match. which I don't think I would have said this back in '98 when he was messing around with Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold, because it didn't seem like he quite got it. But now it's like, hey, this dude gets it. Like, he could be a major heel in pro wrestling. He could just be like a fun guy to see in a match. Hell, give him the same kind of match that Anthony Ogogo just had.
Yeah, that's all you need.
The knockout punch. Yeah,
that's all you need. Like Cash too. I'm sure we'll talk about this here in a second. But Cash sold his knockout really well too.
Unbelievably well. I like the Cash. Go ahead, Dominic. I like the Cash literally had to be carried out. I thought it was a lot of fun. James, I'm seeing where you were saying Davey Boy should grow his hair and do the 92 British Bulldog hairstyle. I think that would be really sweet. Just picture him with that hairstyle and like the mouthpiece like you and I were talking about. Man, that would be money.
Yeah, that would definitely be money. I'd be all for that. Yeah. Okay, what you got next, Mark?
All right, well, let's have a look here.
We want to talk about the match itself, Dax and Jericho?
Yeah, we might as well jump into it, Dominic, because that's close enough here. You know, I've said it before, and I'll say it again now. Dax is the best male wrestler on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
Either him or hi from Poland. Hi. Wow. Well, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate all you guys being here. Really appreciate the interaction. We'll try to get everybody's shit in. Shit being questions. But I think that Dax, maybe only behind Cesaro, is the best male wrestler on the face of the planet. He's coming up against a guy, Chris Jericho, who it was formerly the best in the world, I would say. Probably not anymore. He's lost a couple steps, but he's still really good. And it seems like a natural rivalry, and it was a great match. What did you think?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I liked, at first I was like, I wasn't up for Jericho immediately grabbing a chair and then Tyson pulling it away. Cause I'm like, well, Jericho's the baby face here. He shouldn't be kind of doing anything like that. But then Dax kind of comes back with the bat. Tyson levels it out. I thought it was a really nice way to incorporate Mike Tyson into the match. And then you just have some of the, oh my, and then
the savage remark.
Yeah. And then you just have Tyson, like, kind of he doesn't get involved because he calls it down the middle, and chaos does ensue, but he knocks out Cash, so we get that spot. But dude, he out of all the Tyson appearances, I think that he's made in wrestling, obviously like his most memorable ones with Austin, but I think like this is the one where he really shined, like in a lot of ways, because you heard him talk and he's like, I'm going to call it down the middle and all that. And then the Mike Tyson fashion and all that stuff. So it's, I don't know. Like, I thought it was a really overall well performance by Tyson. And then Jericho is just, I love the look he's got going right now. Like the Miami Vice beard and fucking like the all back in black attitude kind of stuff with the Inner Circle. it's really clicking for me, really clicking. And then, we didn't even mention MJF's pitch to Tyson at the beginning of the show too, which was great.
I thought it was great. I love Mike Tyson not just tearing up the check, but then stuffing it in his mouth and spitting it at him. I thought it was awesome. And I think that Jericho still has a lot in the tank. Again, he's not what he used to be, but he's still really, really good. I really enjoyed the match. I'm excited to see where this whole thing is going. What is this you just highlighted here? The Bucks.
I was just like, oh, can I see my comments on here? And I just wanted to put it on
there. So Dom, let's also talk about something that took place before this match.
Okay.
And that is a little pre-tape promo from Miro. They're listening to this podcast, Dominic.
This is what you make you think.
This is just another part of it. They have to be listening to this. They're doing all the stuff
Marcus
thing they should do.
I get that, but I think that's the obvious thing to do with Miro, though, too, isn't it? Like, I think if anybody's going to say, hey, what should you do with Miro? Okay, you got to make him serious, and you got to make him, like, want to kick somebody's ass. And if they said something that we said, like, word for word, I'd be like, well, maybe. But even that could be coincidental. I don't know, Marcus. It seems like the obvious choice would go with Miro.
Well, I think the obvious choice in the first place with Miro was to bring him in and make him an absolute beast. And rip people apart in the ring, but instead they made him super into video games.
I think that was Miro's choice, though, and I think that part of that was a creative detriment. Like, not just from Miro's standpoint of him making that choice, but then allowing it to happen too. Where it just be like, I mean, obviously you want to give those stars a chance to be who they are, but listen, like Miro, as much as he loves video games and is a fan of that stuff, your look, your presence, and even your charisma that you showing off can show that you have a very, very high ceiling. So why put that onto it when you should just be like an ultimate ass kicker kind of thing?
Well, either way, I really appreciate the direction that Miro appears to be moving in, where he says, like, he's gonna do it with or without Kip. And he seems like he's ready to take that leap finally. She's saying that Y2J is the GOAT. I mean, you could certainly make the argument. The one thing that I've always said about Y2J is what's really interesting about him is all of the most popular modern wrestlers he has stepped in the ring with. The only one I can't think I believe he never had a match with is Bret Hart. But aside from Bret, I mean, think about it. He's been in the ring with Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. I believe he was in the ring with Randy Savage. Like, the man has been in the ring with everybody. So yeah,
honestly, like I think we said this before on the podcast. This is like 6 degrees of Jericho.
Yeah. He wrestled Roddy Piper, Jimmy Snuka. I mean, we can keep going.
Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah. So I mean, Chris Jericho's kind of seen and done it all. So you could 100% make the argument. This is Chris Braun. He's saying Miro is being portrayed as a beast despite the video game side gimmick. He beat down best friends pretty well, and now he should transition away from Kip and continue the beatings on his way to Omega. 100% agree.
I think we're seeing that. I think, Chris, I think, in his promo, he mentioned like Kip ran away and I haven't seen him since that match. So he's like, if you're going to do it, you're going to be like Kip, like if you're a title holder. So he's definitely gunning. He's definitely gunning for it. Good little thing to get him going. They got to keep amping up the energy with it, though, and make it more and more, make those stakes high, make him really, really mean business. And then they'll get to some business, hopefully, with that. So, yeah, man. Good little segment.
Well, let's talk about the other pre-tape. At least I'm pretty sure it was a pre-tape, and that's the promo from Kenny Omega's group, most notably Don Callis. The Good Brothers were there, the Young Bucks were there, and it's like, man, like that group of guys, they kind of look like a bunch of stars, don't they? Kenny Omega's out there looking like the cleaner again. It's a pretty fun time to be.
Bucks have the old 2000 Triple H hat back.
Yeah, it was good, man. And Don Callis, let me tell you, he might be the best in the business on the mic right now.
Dude, it was really good. I really like Don Callis a lot in there. He just fits that role great of used car salesman and just the master manipulator, but everybody can see through him though too. And he's just this Total slime ball. Total ass slime ball.
I could have done without seeing Don Callis give a little sweet shin music.
I kind of like
the
that.
end.
I liked it, actually. Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't crazy about it. The idea of him getting his leg high enough to kick somebody in the face, I'm like, he might legit break his hip if he did that.
He did a decent job. I think he kicked higher than I would be able to. That's not saying much, but
Chris was at Mania in Seattle, and he was there live to see Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho. Holy smokes! That's one of the best WrestleMania matches I recall having ever seen.
yes.
I mean, basically everyone that Shawn Michaels is involved in is one of the greatest I've ever seen. He always turned it on for WrestleMania. But I mean, you need a good dance partner, and Chris Jericho is at that time around. I mean, like, I didn't even talk about like Chris Jericho beating The Rock, Stone Cold. I mean, like, Undertaker,
undisputed champion.
Yeah. He's been in the ring with everyone, and it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Dominic, another promo, and this will be the last promo. It's going to be all match talk from here on. How about Thunder Rosa? She does it all. Awesome promo, and great hype for my favorite modern rivalry in pro wrestling, and that's her and Serena Deeb. Like, let's go. Let's get the third match.
Man. Yeah.
Let's get the third match between these two. Let's put the strap back on Thunder Rosa. I want to see Thunder Rosa as like Ultimo Dragon, right? When he used to come out with, like, he'd have Sonny Ono like carrying all of his titles. Let's get her like the New Japan Women's title, if that's a thing. Let's get her AEWs. I mean, I love it. I think it's awesome.
No, I love it too. And I thought she just did like a quick promo, but an awesome promo, like just meant business. And like, it really made the stakes. Like, okay, NWA women's title, she's going for both of them. And, she's calling everybody out. And it's just like, it makes you excited and positions her as one of the main faces of the women's division in AEW. And like, just creates so much for intrigue for that and NWA. It's just really elevates the women's division. She really does. And, it's a lot of those matches, like whether she's gonna fight Sheeta or Deeb, or like even just like the other intrigue of wrestlers, even like what you talked about, like, oh, sometime down the road we're gonna probably see her and Jade Cargill, like just the juxtaposition and contrast to those styles and looks, it will be very cool to see. So
I mean, right now Jade looks like this unstoppable force. Like, who better to put a stop to her dominance than Thunder Rosa? Like, Thunder Rosa is a believable, credible person who could defeat her just by being better as a wrestler. Like, maybe not stronger, maybe not faster, but she just can work better.
Yeah,
I think that's a good storyline. Swax said, I love Chris Jericho's AEW theme song. It seems like a lot of people do. Kind of seems like a lot of people are forced to like it, if you believe rumor and innuendo, which was that a lot of people weren't singing the second verse and Chris Jericho got mad. So now all of a sudden they are encouraging people to sing to the second verse. Which,
I think, well, now though that he's a babyface, it's just easy to do. Fans will do it.
It makes more sense now. It doesn't make it any less annoying to have like everybody shouting his thing before every match.
Like, here's the thing: is like, if it happens, it happens. Like, let it happen organically. I think we kind of do get that for the most part now, but it's just like, yeah, like, because I think AEW, from even the television production standpoint, they really hammed it up sometimes. Like, okay, hey, listen, and like, I get like you have like a pandemic, and for a while you couldn't have fans there, so you had to supplement the fans with like talent, that are up and coming. But you don't got to force that kind of thing if it's not there.
Well, Dom, I'm glad you said up and coming talent, because next I want to talk about Chris Statlander. She came out in a match against, forgive me, I can't remember the girl's name, but basically
Amber Nova.
I think that's it. An enhancement talent. In a nutshell, they wanted to bring her back as strong. I think that the pairing of her with Best Friends is perfect, because she's got that kind of like weird I'm an alien gimmick. So it kind of like works out really well for her to be with those guys. And dude, she's got like great size. She's got a great look, and she's got a great finisher.
Yeah, that was a really cool finisher, wasn't it?
It looked like it was a little bit scary. Like,
it is, isn't it? Yeah.
If you were her opponent and you had to take that night, it'd be like, yeah, I don't know about this. Like, if she screws this up, it could really hurt.
I could get wrecked here.
Yeah. So it was a cool finisher, and yeah, Chris Statlander, I think she needs just a little bit more polish, and she's going to be ready. But man, like, that women's division, Dominic, just unbelievable. let's add some more. Let's bring in the Iconics. Let's bring in Chelsea Green. Yeah, come on. Let's do it.
Yeah, you could really set it up. If you get the Iconics in there too and have them, that can create some good, like, unique contrast with your women's division too, because like Billy Kay can't really wrestle too well, and Peyton Royce isn't the best at being in the ring either, but they have personalities and charisma that really accentuate or supplement, what they're doing in the, what they could be doing in the ring. So their personalities, you want to get involved in the mix and stuff. You got to vamp real quick. I got to plug my computer in here.
Yeah, no problem. I actually saw a comment earlier that I wanted to comment on. James is saying Jericho is a Hart Family Dungeon alumni, and that's true. And there's not a lot of those left around. I mean, like, how easy would it be? Which they already did this in MLW, but if you were to bring in somebody like Davey Boy Smith Jr., let's see him with Brian Pillman Jr. And heck, let's get Chris Jericho involved there. Like maybe they could have like a little allegiance where it's like all these people who are like connected to the Hart family and their legacy. I mean, that seems like an easy solution. Not to mention the fact that Bret Hart was the first ever presenter of the AEW Championship. So the first time we had it, we got to look at that AEW Championship. Who's the one who's holding it up in the air? But the Hitman himself. So, I mean, there's so many possibilities, so many directions that you can move in when it comes to paying homage to historic wrestling family and historic wrestling moments. I love the potential that AEW has right now, especially, because Tony Khan's got so many resources. We could really see something awesome here. Another thing I just saw here, and something I've been kind of saying, how easy is it with Tessa Blanchard, one of the best female wrestlers out there? The daughter of obviously Tully Blanchard, who's a big part of AEW. It's like, how sweet would it be to see her in the Pinnacle? Now, obviously,
that'd be cool.
She has allegedly made some comments that do not jive with anything that any wrestling fan should believe or feel. Now, it is, of course, just alleged that she made these comments, but that's a hard thing to have said about you and rebound from. I hope that she can, because I love her work. I love her look. And obviously, she'd be a major addition to AEW, right, Dom?
Oh, absolutely. Like, she would be. Like, I think it's like, that's the thing, though, is like the character issues and things like that is the problem you have to worry about, and how that's going to reflect on you too as a company. That's the thing you have to really be conscientious of, because as talented as she is, that's just what gets carried with it. So it's just a lot to think about with it.
While we're talking about bringing in talent, let's just touch on one more, and I'll be interested to see what people in the comments have to say about this, because I've heard a lot of argument both ways. But how about somebody like Enzo Amore? I would love to see him in the ring again, on national television again. I just saw this whole thing, or the promo that he and Cass did, where he was pretending to hold a mic. He didn't actually have a mic in his hand, but what he said is like so recognizable, and people loved it so much that he didn't need the mic. Everybody in the audience did his whole promo for him, because he says all the same stuff all the time, and it's so over that like the entire audience was like, it was like echoing through the arena. It's like, dude, you can't pay to get people that into a person in pro wrestling, and Enzo Amore had it before these false allegations, and they did come out as false. These false allegations came out about him. So I mean, let's bring in Enzo Amore. Hell, let's bring in Cass if he's got his head screwed on straight, and let's pair them with a team like the Acclaimed. Who better?
Yeah, I mean, I think they do have to kind of be careful and kind of like stick with what they have at the moment. Like somebody mentioned earlier too, that they could do without. I think it was Chris that mentioned this, was like they could do without even bringing in guys like Joe Henning or Bo Dallas, because they should be focusing on talent. And there's a very, very extremely strong argument for that, especially because what we say in regards to how much talent they feature on the show. And I mean, this week is telling too, because that happened this week too. A lot of talent on the show. So I mean, I like Enzo and Cass a lot. I got to interview both of them at the same time, and awesome dudes. And like, I really enjoy like their personalities and just the attitude that they kind of bring. Like that, like say polarizing as they might have been like in WWE, and then after their stuff, like there's no arguing that they had that like kind of pro wrestler mentality that you'd want, like where it's just like, hey, I'm better than you and I know it, like that kind of attitude. So it's yeah, I would like to see them eventually at some point. Don't know if right now would be the right time just to hone some things out, unless you did it in the appropriate manner. But yeah, it's again so much talent that's there already that they have to accommodate for and try to make the most of.
I think you make a good point, Dom. It's, and I've said this many times before. If we have new listeners here, this will maybe this is for your benefit, but the thing that made WCW so interesting and helped them to compete on the level that they did with WWE back in the day was the fact that you never knew what was going to happen week to week. You never knew who was going to show up. All of a sudden, Scott Hall is coming out of the crowd. All of a sudden, the British Bulldog makes an appearance. Rick Martel is with them all of a sudden. So I think that this constant rotation of new talent is an important factor for AEW if they want sustained success. That being said, you're right, because there is only so much TV time. It's a 2-hour program.
Yeah.
And this TV time is not inexpensive. Neither is signing some of these big name talents. So you kind of have to pick and choose, and you kind of almost need to more heavily feature shows like Elevation and Dark to get some talent over.
Yeah. So Chris here says, I used to love Cass and Enzo, but I don't get that team player vibe from them. So I'm good without them on AEW. I think that the Acclaimed has big ceiling given time and don't need to be attached to Enzo and Cass to get over. I mean, like you can make an argument for that. I like I like all four of those guys. So, I think how the Acclaimed are, I think that, yeah, I'm with you. Their ceiling's so high. So it's like, again, you got to get these new talents over, these new faces over. If the opportunity presents itself to bring in somebody like Cass, who just had a really good interview, and now I haven't gotten to check it out, but he had a really good interview with Chris Van Vliet, and sit down interview. He really opens up about everything and his problems, I believe. So definitely check that out if you can. But I think there's definitely a position in wrestling for Enzo and Cass, whether it's in AEW or somewhere else, But yeah, James here mentioned too a little bit earlier ago, since the Forbidden Door is open, maybe bring in Jacob Fatu, him versus Moxley, Kingston, maybe Samoa Joe. Now, I love Jacob Fatu. I love him. He's fucking.
If you guys don't know who Jacob Fatu is, if you don't watch MLW, go out of your way to get on YouTube and just see some of the stuff that Jacob Fatu does. I do not watch a ton of MLW, but what I've seen mostly features Jacob Fatu. And that is a Brock Lesnar level badass of a dude.
Yeah. And he's the total package too, because he can cut promos. He can do anything in the ring. He's just a powerhouse, like a world beater, immediate world beater. Same with Calvin Tankman too. So yeah, that would be a very awesome to see. MLW, I know they kind of like doing their own thing in a lot of ways. They don't. And I know in an interview with Alexander Hammerstone, he mentioned I like that they're kind of making their own established brand, because we talked about having crossover stuff. And he was like, there's something to be said about having your own brand, like just by itself in its own entity, and doing that instead of like, hey, I have to go our brand has to go over here to get the rub overall and stuff, where there's an argument for that for sure. So it's just, I would love to see MLW crossover, but I think you always run into that problem of how are they going to be conveyed, and how, whether your impact, which we don't see any impact besides the Good Brothers on AEW. That's it. Otherwise, we have not seen Willie Mack or Rich Swann or Chris Bay or Eric Young or James Storm or any talents that could be featured haven't really been featured on there. And again, it speaks to the point that Marcus and I were just saying too, was a lot of talent that you have to make.
Well, and Chris he just asked a very interesting question that I think that we can address, especially while we're on the subject. All the talk about bringing in guys, let's turn it on its head. Who of the current roster that it isn't getting on Dynamite do you want to see get more attention? For me, that's an easy one, and that's the Varsity Blondes. I think that those two are awesome. Griff Garrison kind of came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden I'm like, hey, this guy is really good. He's got a really good look. He's talented in the ring. He's got good size. And Brian Pillman Jr. has got everything that you need in a pro wrestler. He has the legacy. He's got the ring skills. He's got the look. So I mean, those two I think are two of the more interesting prospects in AEW right now. I want to see them on a weekly basis on TV. Them, and probably the other one for me would be the Gun Club.
Yeah, I'm with you on like both those teams. Very much I think is Jungle Boy we want to see, and that
Want to see
singles
him do his own thing.
yeah, want to see him do his own thing, but very much I think he's like when we see Jurassic Express, that's what who he's with most of the time. So I mean, Jungle Boy getting him in those singles matches like he had with Dax and everything like that, I think would be a lot more. You got to get Jungle Boy right in that mix now. It is time to do it. Like 2021 should be the year of Jungle Boy. Now, if we're going from a standpoint of dark and like maybe talent that have it, well, I guess we can't maybe necessarily say them because they're not signed yet. But I love Marcus. I always love like Baron Black, John. Oh my God, John Schuyler, who I interviewed too. They're both really standout talents on dark and elevation. Trying to think for but I'm trying to think for main roster ones that kind of have flown under the radar though.
Well,
go ahead.
When's the last time that Ricky Starks had a match on Dynamite?
Well, that's the thing. I think they're still featured. I don't think they're because you see him every week. So I'm already, and he's fighting next week on Dynamite. He's got a good match next week. I can't remember who's it's Hangman. It's Ricky Starks and Hangman. So that's going to be an awesome match.
It will be good. I mean, Hangman clearly goes over there, and I think Ricky Starks needs some wins under his belt.
We'll see. Yeah, I'm not totally on that. Maybe Starks does get the win, but I mean, Hangman is they did mention the winning streaks that both those guys have been on. So, the stakes are there for, somebody to win and somebody to lose.
Hangman's being positioned as a top guy. I can't see them having him do a job at this stage. Dominic, another guy who is a top guy and a guy who I will admit that I never really saw much of. And it's as I watch him now, I'm like, why didn't I see this before? Like, why didn't I appreciate him more when he was younger and when he was on TV on a very consistent basis? I'm talking about Christian Cage. Man, like, I don't know what it was, why I didn't see it before, but Christian Cage is a absolute superstar. He is great on the mic. He's great in the ring, and he provides like a perfect kind of legacy talent for AEW, who can help to level up some of the next guys in line. But like, I'm not seeing him just as like a veteran who can put over some younger talent and get them over. Right now, I'm seeing him as like this guy who is back after 7 years off, and he's gunning for the championship. And I think that's how they should build him. Let's give him a bunch of feuds in between. Let's build it for like a year. Let's build it for 2 years and get Christian Cage in the ring with somebody like Kenny Omega for the championship. If Kenny were to hold it or to flip-flop the title a few times, I think that should ultimately be where Christian Cage is going. It's like, okay, I don't mind starting from the bottom. I have been away from wrestling for a long time. So let's have him start at the bottom and work his way up until finally a year from now, 2 years from now, he gets in the ring and gets his first ever AEW World Championship match.
Yeah. No, I think it would be very, very good. Like, they're going to build to that and they'll make it, But yeah, I think they should take their time with it too and have him like chip away and work is like, do the work or what's it? Outwork everyone. So there you go.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great baby face. It's a cool saying, outwork everyone. And yeah, man, I can't say enough good things about Christian Cage, and I can't say enough good things about his segment with Powerhouse Hobbs. I mean, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Hobbs he's going to look strong as a newcomer by beating on Christian pretty convincingly here, but then ultimately I think that they're going to have a match, and of course Christian should and probably will go over in that match, and then it's like, okay, Christian Cage just beat somebody who's somebody. And not just somebody, but somebody who's a lot bigger than he is.
And younger. Like, it's like you get those types of matches upset. Like, those wrestlers of today, like Hobbs can look back on and be like, hey, I fought Christian Cage once,
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. And Powerhouse Hobbs, like Christian physically looks completely outmatched when he's standing in the ring with somebody like Powerhouse Hobbs. So like, you've got somebody like Christian who's so good in the ring, such a good hand. So he's going to bring out the best in Hobbs. And we'll get to kind of see the best of both people as a result of this thing. And then ultimately it continues to push this narrative with Christian Cage, where they're saying like he's trying to work his way back in.
Yeah. And I think that would be, they could tell a very good story where Christian has to outwork outwork Powerhouse Hobbs to take him out. And
it's an easy story to tell, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where it's just like we've got this guy who's like, yes, he's new to the business. Yeah, he's green, but he's too damn strong and you can't stop him. But then you've got Christian. It's like, I might be smaller, but I've got the experience and I've got the in-ring know-how. I can beat him.
Yeah, exactly. No, I like what they're doing with Christian, and him feuding with Team Taz is pretty damn cool. So
no doubt. So we're fast approaching an hour here, so we won't keep you guys much longer. But let's talk about the main event. Dominic, we're there. Unless you had anything else in between you need to discuss.
No, I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of what was really a great part about Dynamite so far, was all that stuff, and the main event included.
Yeah, I think so too. Let me tell you, that was quite a main event. It was a nice idea. You got Hardy who can still bring it, and Darby's one of like the biggest up and comers in the business, and they did the match the right way, right? Where the older, larger veteran guy basically has the advantage for the largest part of the match, and then Darby, eventually works his way out of it and gets a big win. Turned into a little bit of a clusterfuck there for a minute.
Little bit.
But they rebounded, and it was quite a finish. I mean, if you're a casual fan and you're flipping through and you're like, oh, I guess I'll check this out. Matt Hardy's in the ring against this dude with some face paint. I saw Sting a minute earlier. I'll stick around. So if you're a casual fan and you're watching this, I mean, the way that they went off the air, it's like, I think I might tune in next week. That was quite something.
That was pretty interesting. Like, yeah, wrestling, that's the cool shit that I used to like watching the Hardy Boys, and that happened.
Right. Right. Yeah, you want to make a comparison to Jeff Hardy, like Darby Allin's about as close as you come right now.
Hey, JR's
like,
compared him that several times. Yeah, Jeff Hardy.
Yeah. So, man, it was cool. It was a good match. A little bit of a clusterfuck. I think they need to clean that up a little bit, but it was cool to see Sting out there. Yeah, I mean, like I said, was it the greatest match of all time? No. Was it like a 5-star technical masterpiece? Absolutely not. But it told a really nice story, and it put a nice little bow on the story too.
Yeah, and then you had Lance Archer in the mix again with Sting, and they teased that again. I thought it's leaning more towards them being friendly with one another than it is enemies. So I'm curious about that,
Hey, here we go from Chris. I was surprised that Hardy didn't go over, honestly, given his gimmick, but it was good. Props to Hardy for doing it just days after his father's passing. Yep. Rest in peace to his father and prayers out to his family.
Yeah, he did that the day after. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. It says a lot about him as a professional. The question becomes, who finally takes the belt off of Darby? Dominic, who would you like to see to be the next TNT champion?
Man, that's tough. I think it would be good to have it, like I mentioned him earlier, Jungle Boy. Like, you have a babyface versus babyface match. You have those guys go back and forth. Jungle Boy gets the win, and then you kit him, like him and Darby shake hands. You have Darby kind of like just move on to another feud, like, and then you can start telling Jungle Boy's story at defending the title. And I don't think you need a transitional champion either to do that.
Hey, how about let's keep the belt on for another 6 months? Why not? Let's give him a nice long run, and then how about a little babyface versus babyface? Shaking hands before and after the match. I'm talking about Christian Cage taking the title off him.
Oh, so you think he before he even gets to the world title, he should secure the TNT belt, huh?
Yeah, why not? Let's slowly level him up. Let's give him the intermediate belt. And see what kind of a run he has there before we put the big platinum on.
Big old platinum on there.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, Dominic, Jungle Boy is another perfect choice. I want to see Jungle, but then again, Dom, week after week I say it. Let's get a cruiserweight title. Let's get a cruiserweight tournament going. Let's see Matt Sydal taking on Jungle Boy for that championship. And now that's a match that I would sign up for.
And you're all about Matt Sydal, man. All about
Matt Sydal. I really think he's got it. You and I have said it before. I think he's kind of got a reputation for botching stuff. For
I don't think
stuff up. I hope not, because I see a lot of that narrative on Twitter. But I like him a lot.
Mm-hmm. Chris adds another thing. I feel like the TNT needs to be a belt that changes every 3 to 4 months to give some of the guys not getting Miro Omega some love. Scorpio, Archer, Hardy, Jungle Boy, so many more. That's an interesting take. You can make an argument for that for sure. 4 months is a decent run. I always appreciate it though when titles do stay on somebody for a very long time, but it's a valid case to make because you have so much talent that you want to get over. And if you're going to do that, giving them like somewhat extended runs with the title where they have some strong defenses, particularly too, like this is good. This is in favor to Chris's point, is if you make that TNT title something that's defended on a weekly basis, then you can cultivate like, wow, that was a hell of a run. And it'll only be like 3.5 months or whatever it may be. So,
yeah, I think when it comes to pro wrestling, even since the 90s, belts are changing hands a lot.
That's the problem. Yeah.
And it was a problem. I mean, you look at back in the day when Bruno Sammartino held the championship for like 5 years. Yes, it's a long time. And yeah, it would become aggravating where it's like every pay-per-view it comes up, you're like, he's probably going to win because he keeps winning. But that being said, when he finally did lose, it was a really, really big deal.
The crowd wept and went silent.
Yes. Yeah. And so that was the other thing. I believe he lost to Pedro Morales, right?
No, he lost to Ivan Koloff.
Oh, yes, that's right. But it was like it was a really big deal. And so the longer you keep a belt on somebody, the more impact it has when they finally lose it. It's like the Goldberg streak, right? Obviously they kind of screwed it up ultimately, but the thing is that it was like, who is gonna finally beat this guy? And they kept putting him in positions where it's like, could this might be the guy? This guy might actually do it. So I think that keeping belts on people for an extended period of time is a good thing. And yeah, I mean, certainly you could use the TNT title to help build people. But hey, everybody will get their shot, and some people don't need the belt to get over. In Jake the Snake, Razor Ramon fashion. I guess Razor held the Intercontinental title, but like I don't think Razor necessarily needed the Intercontinental title. He was over. Jake was over. Roddy Piper was over. So it's I don't know. I see the argument both ways.
I think too. The less people have the title, the more significant the title is. So like if it's jumping from people to people, like it. Like not everybody should get to hold that title. Could the argument be made? You have to find the way to get those other stars over that might not necessarily get a chance or run with the TNT belt or something. Because not everybody should maybe hold the title. So I can see both ways of it for sure.
I know I keep beating this drum, but I think the introduction of a new title, such as the Cruiserweight title, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that could help to get some guys over, especially because a lot of the guys are slight of frame and could be considered cruiserweights in AEW.
Yeah.
I think it would be a good way to get the title over. James said anyone for an AEW Super Junior tournament. Absolutely. Let's do that. I think that would be cool. That would be cool in lieu of a cruiserweight title, right? Where you have like the Super Junior trophy or something. And it's like that guy holds the trophy for like a year or 6 months until they have another one, so there's something there for sure.
That's a good point. That's a very good point to do it that way. And then you don't have another belt, but you have something to kind of look forward to, almost, like King of the Ring, almost like, okay, it's that you're not holding a title, but you are the King of the Ring,
Hey, here's a really good question from Chris Chambers, Dominic. Do you guys see AEW going 3 hours? They have enough talent. Dom, what would you think about a 3-hour Dynamite program?
I would not be a fan. I just would not. I think you almost have to break it up to have a 2-hour show and then a 1-hour show another day on the week. Just specifically because it's just so long to sit through 3 hours of anything. And a football game makes sense. A sports game makes sense. But like wrestling is several stories being told, And I think viewership, and like I think this has been a big dagger for Raw. Like, and Raw's been doing it for nearly 10 years now. Is those 3-hour Raws, and it has not served the product well. And even like, and that's not even counting SmackDown. Like now you look at WWE and when you count NXT, they have 7 hours of weekly content on television, and that's a lot.
So here's the argument that I would make in favor. I agree. 3 hours is a long time for a wrestling program, and I think fans tend to get exhausted. But here's the thing: is like, yeah, you could have another 1 hour program, almost like a Saturday Night Heat or whatever that used to be with WWE. But the
Sunday
thing
night.
is, yeah, that's it. Sunday Night Heat with WWE. But the thing is, with Sunday Night Heat, Dominic, was that the business was really, really hot at that time.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It was. I'm letting my cat.
People were trying to consume pro wrestling at every single opportunity that they had. So with Sunday Night Heat being on, people were like, yeah, I'm going to watch that. Would that happen today? If AEW decided that they were going to start running a Sunday night program? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that the viewers would be like, I'll just catch Dynamite on Wednesday. I don't need to watch this.
Maybe. I think if you add some stuff to it, it could be an interesting program, though.
I mean, if they start taking some of these people that they're adding to jump the rating, like Mike Tyson, for example, if you say, hey, Mike Tyson's going to be appearing on our Sunday night show, and it's like, okay, we might have something here. Yeah. But Dominic, theoretically, if AEW started another one, since Dynamite is kind of like a derivative of Nitro, then what they'd have to call it Lightning, right?
That's what I was gonna say. TNA Lightning, not TNA, AEW Lightning.
AEW Light. I'm sort of in favor of this.
It's kind of a good name.
Yeah, it actually is. I like it. They have the giant stupid wall that opens up like Thunder did at first when it debuted. Yeah. They would have to be the stupid wall that came apart though, not like
like it was fucking. It looked something cheaper than what you'd see on Legend.
It looked like a high school musical set.
That's exactly what it looked like. That's exactly what it looked like. Yep.
All right, Dominic, do you have any other questions you want to address before we start going into our closing shtick?
Trying to think. No, just the ratings were really good this week with AEW. That 1.2 million viewership, I think it was.
Now, is that Mike Tyson? Probably, right?
They said I read a stat. I think the big getter for the 18 to 49 demographic ended up being Darby and Matt Hardy in the main event.
Well, I mean, how do you get much better than that? Darby is easily one of the biggest up and comers in the business right now. You've got Matt Hardy, who's kind of like it's almost like he's taking on a younger version of his own brother and Jeff Hardy. So yeah, I mean, it was a pretty compelling main event. See, I didn't look at like the hour to hour, so I just assumed that okay, Mike Tyson was on the program, so that's why.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, no, it could have been. I'm sure that was an incentive to tune in, you know. So like, I mean, Tyson's just a name, and I think they made the most of him for that appearance, and I think he really enjoyed himself too, and I think that also speaks to the quality of the product when the talent enjoys doing what they're doing. So
yeah. And Tyson actually came off like an actual enforcer for the match.
Yeah.
Whereas like usually if they have some kind of a special guest enforcer, like I don't know, didn't like Mickey Rourke do it once? He just like he didn't really do shit, and then at the end he just like punched somebody.
He punched Jericho, I think.
I thought it was Dolph Ziggler or something. I don't know.
No. Oh, you're thinking Hugh Jackman punched Zack Ryder.
That's what I'm thinking. Wait, I thought Hugh Jackman was friends with Zack Ryder.
Oh, maybe you're right. Yes, so he punched Dolph.
I don't
That's
know.
Great.
It is not relevant to our AEW discussion right now.
Right, yeah. I do like Hugh Jackman though.
Chris Braun is saying it wasn't Tyson. Nobody in the key demo will have watched the guy outside of The Hangover. Only old guys like me watched him actually box. Yeah, I mean, man, if you are one of those young guys here who's listening to this right now, do yourself a favor and go watch Mike Tyson knockout highlights on YouTube. You'll burn an hour of your life, but it'll be worth it.
I think that was a great thing that MJF said too. He's like, "Hey, my dad said you were great."
Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Mike Tyson was a bad man. Oh, dude, MJF also said, I can see one regret you might have.
Oh, the big
Talking about his face tattoo.
and that's great too. Like when a talent's able to take that kind of like, or a star's able to take that kind of criticism, it's like, okay, they get it. They get it.
Yeah, Tyson very clearly understands the world of pro wrestling, and he's certainly got a place in wrestling as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Real quick, Marcus. Kenny Omega, do you think we'll see him getting the Impact title? He'll be facing Rich Swann at Rebellion. And they had a little press conference on Impact last night. Pretty intriguing. We
has to be, right. He has to be winning it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that we're trying to establish Kenny Omega as an unstoppable force in pro wrestling. Like, hey, this guy is the best wrestler in the world. Which is I don't necessarily agree with. As far as wrestling, he's just not my cup of tea. That's not to say that he doesn't do his thing better than anybody else. But for me, Cesaro and Dax are a little bit closer to what I appreciate. But like, could you argue that Kenny is the best in the world? Sure, absolutely.
Oh yeah, you can absolutely. Yeah, there's just like, yeah, it's just like wrestling is a subjective art form, so it really depends on how you view what you like about wrestling.
Yeah. So, hey, here's an interesting perspective, and then Dom, you and I can get into our ratings and MVPs. Chris said, "Am I the only guy who doesn't care about this crossover angle at all?" I don't know, maybe because I think that most people see that and they're really intrigued by it because I always, you guys can see I'm a huge WCW fan, right? But I always reference it. But like, I think it makes us all think a little bit about like, what if Eric Bischoff had put in a call to Paul Heyman and said like, hey, let's work together, let's try to take down the Giant together. It makes us think about that kind of thing, and it's sort of happening right now, where it's like the door is open, where we can say like, hey, Impact guys, come on in. New Japan, come on in. ROH, come on in. Possibly MLW, come on in. Certainly, yeah, certainly it looks like NWA. They've gotten a standing invite, so it's like it's just all the potential and possibility that we had back in the 90s when wrestling was really booming. We're seeing it now, and it's cool. It's a really cool thing to have happening. It's something that's never happened in pro wrestling before, to my knowledge.
Yeah, no, it's very neat, and I think it's the route a lot of that's like should be taking at this juncture, especially when you have such an established monster like WWE, that's ruled the roost for how long now? So like 14.
They've borderline established like a monopoly over pro wrestling for years, where it was like the pro wrestlers felt like they had no other option, and that's why ultimately WWE has gone off the rails as much as it has, because I think a lot of these guys are seeing that like, hey, I can't really argue with Vince when he tells me what he wants my gimmick to be, because there's nowhere else I can go to make this kind of money. And now all of a sudden AEW is like, that's not the reality. You can still make your money here. Let's all work together and bust this giant gorilla in the mouth. And it seems like that's what they're doing.
No, totally. So Chris says this. Here's the thing. I want to watch AEW and their guys. I don't want to see Impact guys, or I'd watch Impact or NWA or New Japan or RH. There's more than enough talent. I want to see that. I don't need to see the Good Brothers taking a spot that could be the Varsity Blondes or the Acclaimed. So
it's a good point, but then there's this angle to consider. If we're going to start shining a light on some of these other programs, like Impact, for example, we're starting to shine a little bit of a light on Impact, which is on Access TV, and we're shining a light on with a program that's on TNT. Now all of a sudden, what if we get some AEW talent working over there more? They've been doing it, but like why can't the Varsity Blondes be the TNA champions? Yeah, or NWA tag team champions, if that's a thing. Let's get Trevor Murdoch on AEW, and we can trade them Brian Cage to NWA for a few fights. I just think I think there's a lot of possibility, and it could be a good way to handle this situation where we've got too many talent and not enough programs to feature them on.
I think the argument could be made too that like the fact that you're collaborating. I get Chris's point where you want to.
I do too.
Yeah, where you want to highlight those stars because those are your stars. Like you should want to get them over. But I think you can do it by putting them in other promotions too, and then creating that interest into maybe tuning into those products. So like, and not only that, but it makes your product more tangible because you're not only on these other programs, but like it's makes you see more of a, I think, like a big deal in a way, because like, you know, you're part of the wrestling industry. You're not just in your own bubble like WWE is. So, um, yeah, I can certainly see the argument for what he's saying for sure, though. But ultimately, like, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, particularly for the smaller promotions. But right now, it's like Impact isn't getting too much from it, other than like, you know, the Kenny Omega appearances, which is nice, but it's also like their numbers are still not too good on Twitch. From what it seems, it's decent. They're like, I think they got like 130K last night, and it was a good show last night on Impact. So yeah, just a lot to different think about.
Yeah, I don't know. I find the prospect to be exciting, but there again, you're both you and Chris make good points here, where it's like, do we want to feature talent that isn't signed to a contract on our TNT television? Do we want to take a contract people who are under contract, who are giving a lot of money to? Do we want to hand them over to Access TV and let them be featured over there? I don't know. I think you've got to do it right.
It's a choice. Like Tony Khan doesn't have to really do any of that. Like, you know, I think it's those promotions will get some of the rub from AEW because AEW is the mainstream product, and like if you want your product to kind of get more known, hey, we got ties to AEW. Like, it's good to flex a little bit. Like, Impact was already a brand, but I mean, I don't know. It's there's arguments like a lot of this stuff. There's arguments that can be made on both ends for it, no doubt. You know.
Yeah, I mean, what they're doing right now with Kenny Omega makes a lot of sense to me, where they're saying like, no, like he's not just the AEW champion; he could be the champion of any promotion he goes to.
Right.
So like, I think it'd be really fascinating to see him be New Japan's champion, Impact's champion, and AEW's champion all at the same time, and maybe even talk a little shit about WWE on the program, and just be like, hey, look, Vince McMahon will never do it, but if he were to, I'd beat his champion too. I'll beat Roman Reigns or whoever the champion is.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would be great, like, to have him with the 3 championship belts and be like, look at this. Every promotion I go to, I win their world championship. You think it'd be any different if I took on the jabronis up there in New York? I don't know,
Yeah.
man. There's a lot of opportunity there. Again, though, it all does have to be done properly. Now, James asked another question. Dom, let's make this the last one that we answer, and then we'll go into our shit. James said, what would you think of a cross-promotion title that doesn't belong to any particular company? Sure, like maybe. I think it could work. It really depends on execution. To Chris's point earlier, he was saying like, I want to see guys like Scorpio get featured. Like the TNT title shouldn't last more than 3 months with any one person. Like, I want to see these other people get featured and win titles and prove that they can hold a strap and captivate the audience. It's like, could this like non-committed title, this title that isn't committed to any particular promotion, help to achieve that?
I think so. It's interesting because at first I was like, I don't know, but giving it some thought, I think it's to your point about, hey, it's got to be executed right to do it. You have to, like, if you do it right, it could kind of work. You would have to be committed to it though. Like you can't just start it and then get rid of it or something like that. I think, and that comes with communication, proper communication, and good, understanding of what each promotion wants out of it too. I think that's important too, because you're working with a bunch of other people, and so it's interesting. Interesting stuff. Mark, let's get into our MVPs.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's got to be Dax, Dominic. I think that he shined in a match where, theoretically, he should have been probably eaten up by a guy like Chris Jericho, who's got so many more hours in the ring than he has, and certainly has established more of a legacy than Dax has. But Dax was in there, and he looked like he belonged there, and probably maybe even outworked Jericho a little bit. So I've got to hand it over to Dax. I think he is unbelievable in the ring.
I'm giving it to the Young Bucks, man. I just like the new attitude and the new demeanor and the new look. I think it's a really good, strong direction for them going where they're going. And I think that they really stood out on what was a really well done show. Speaking of Marcus, what is your Marcus's Meltzer rating?
It's better than I've been given recently, Dominic. I gotta give this program a 7.4 this week.
That's a good rating for you from you. Yeah.
It was absolutely. I thought it was a really strong program. It wasn't anything eye popping. Like I said, it's not like the Matt Hardy or Darby Allin match was like a 5-star technical masterpiece. But did it tell the story that it was supposed to tell? Yep. Did it give us something exciting? Something exciting for like the casual viewer, where like if my wife was in the room while I was watching it, would she have been like, "Holy shit"? Absolutely. So I mean, they checked a lot of boxes. They did a really nice job with the program. So yeah, it's hard to argue that this wasn't a really strong episode of Dynamite.
Yeah, no, it was. I really liked it a lot. Yeah, and like I said at the beginning of the show, this was the Raw after Mania, or this is what the Raw after Mania should have been like. And AEW did that. So yeah, makes me invested in for next week again. And they have some intriguing matchups coming up. Christian Cage versus Powerhouse Hobbs, and like I said, Ricky Starks and Hangman Page. And I'm sure there's a few more that I'm missing, but it's an intriguing setup for that. And with the ratings the way they were too, it's going to be very intriguing to see how the follow up with that will be, and particularly with NXT being on Tuesday nights and everything too. So yeah, man, interesting time to be a wrestling fan indeed. So.
It is. And guys, we're getting some really nice compliments. Great show and great discussion and everything. Chris also really likes your hat, Dom, which is cool. So, guys, we really appreciate you joining us live. I think we're going to try to go live once a week, maybe here with this. It might be our new format. Obviously, it's not always going to be possible. But whenever it is, I think Dominic and I are going to try to do it because it's fun. It's fun interacting with you guys, hearing your questions, comments, criticisms, even if you've got those. And speaking of which, you guys can reach out to us anytime. Our DMs are open. You can follow me at Marcus P. DeAngelo on Twitter. And you can also follow our other podcast that Dominic and I do, which is WCW Rewritten on Twitter. And it's at WCW Rewritten. If you're not familiar with it, I started at Starrcade 1997, and I started rewriting WCW from that point, where I'm the booker and I have full creative control over everybody and their contracts. And man, we've gone in a whole different direction with WCW. Obviously, as I've stated many times, I'm a huge AEW fan, or rather WCW fan. So I know a lot of the inner workings and the people who are under contract and personal circumstances and stuff. I'm taking advantage and trying to make it a really fun program. And we're on the road to Super Brawl 8 right now. So tune in, catch up, give it a listen, and feel free to message us.
Yeah, all the playlists are on there. Like on SoundCloud, You can check out all of them. YouTube, it's all up on there too. I think maybe missing a couple episodes up there. I got to be sure. But we got you can check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's evergreen stuff, so you can listen to them anytime and run it throughout your week and not feel like you're FOMOing. So you can follow me on Twitter at Dominic DeAngelo. You can follow WrestleZone on Twitter at WrestleZone.com. Then go to WrestleZone.com for all your wrestling news needs. Interviews. I just interviewed Rich Holiday of MLW, Caribbean champion. Very good discussion. We talk about him fighting Gino Medina, and then he talks about his coffee choices, as well as being a Yankees fan as well. So very, very fun discussion with Richard Holiday.
Dom, then you had a pretty big, relevant AEW-esque interview recently as well.
I did, yes. I interviewed Tony Schiavone with Dirk Manning about Tony's new graphic novel, Butts in the Seats. The Kickstarter just ended today, where they blew their goal out of the water. It was initially $20,000 was their goal. Marcus, they made like $137,000 to do that.
That is remarkable.
How crazy is that?
Just goes to show, the kind of following and fandom that Tony Schiavone has. And Dominic, I've said it before. I said it on Twitter whenever you shared it. I'll say it again right now for those listening live. Dominic is one of the more unique interviewers you guys will ever hear. Shoot interviews always tend to go down the same paths, and a lot of these guys, they have very canned answers. The answers that it's almost like they're reading a script. They're so used to answering all the same questions that you will hear the same shit in every single shoot interview. But when it comes to when Dominic interviews people, he kind of knocks people off balance a little bit and asks questions that you have never thought about asking before. and thereby you learn a lot more about the subject. And it's a nice look at Tony Schiavone here. So if you're an Uncle Tony fan, I strongly recommend you check that interview out.
And something that's really neat too. He gives his perspective. I asked him about Batman being a babyface, and he breaks down why Batman's a good babyface. So I think that's worth the tune in, let alone.
I mean, who thinks about asking questions like that? That's tremendous, Dominic.
Thanks. So, hey, yeah. And I got to show him too. It was fun at the end of the show. If you watch it on video, I pull out some graphic novels. And I'm like, hey, have you read this one? Have you read this one? And Tony and Dirk's such a well-rounded graphic novel person that he's like, oh, I know that artist. Yeah, that one there and all that. He's like, he was familiar with all the ones I pulled out. And he was telling Tony about the ones. So you should tune into that too if you get the opportunity. So, cool. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun. We will do this again next week, time permitting. And let's go Dynamite, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Good having you guys here. Fun interacting. And we'll see you guys next week right here on 2 Dynamite Dudes with Attitudes. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks, guys.